Thank you. I'm pleased to be speaking about how you can actually take your digital marketing activities and drive revenue. A lot of organizations are investing heavily into digital. They're looking at how digital can engage customers, how it can engage, how it can allow them to drive revenue from everything that they can do. But quite often there's an issue that organizations run into when it comes to actually bringing everything together to ultimately transform into something meaningful. And actually, a lot of things have changed, and it starts with your buyer. What we're seeing is that you have a buyer who's changed. This buyer is more informed. This buyer moves across the buyer's journey across each touch point quickly and seamlessly, and this buys little attention. So we're in an industry where the buyer has fundamentally changed, and how we engage with the buyer needs to change as well. We're seeing an unprecedented change in buying with the new buyer. We're going from information scarcity to information abundance. We are going from a time when the purchasing power was with sellers, and now it's with buyers. And organizational power has actually shifted from sales to marketing. And what we're seeing is that marketing has to take a fundamentally new role towards influencing the buyer across the buyer's journey. As the buyer moves from discovering products, exploring opportunities, buying, whether it's online or offline, or and then ultimately engaging with you, organizations need to understand how they engage with the buyer. And we're seeing that marketing has more influence, where the marketing groups used to focus at the top of the funnel. Now we're seeing that they're going deeper down and influencing outcomes. And with that, what we're seeing is that as marketing has more control, and as the buyer is changing, we're seeing that organizations are focusing on revenue, where revenue has become the most important metric ultimately that marketers have to drive towards. And this focus on revenue is changing how marketers execute campaigns, where everything that they're working on has to have ROI and outcomes associated with it. But what we're seeing also is that marketers are enabled, if you will, to actually engage with buyers. And we're seeing that marketers are unable to coordinate campaigns across channels in a seamless manner. They're very channel-oriented, so in an organization you may find marketing teams who are focused on email, web, display, but quite often they do not coordinate activities across channels so that you ultimately wrapping everything that you do around the buyer. Marketers struggle to get a single view of the customer. They're unable to measure engagement, and they're unable to measure attribution across channels. Quite often they have channel level reporting, if you will, on the website, email, etc., but they're not able to drive cross-channel engagement. Also, technology is broken for marketers. While we think about the experience of the customer and customer experience, the marketer's experience is broken. They do not have the technology and the capabilities to ultimately support executing campaigns and measuring revenue. So organizations really need to realign their activities, their strategy, their processes, and underlying technology to drive revenue. And I think when I think about that, a variety of areas come to mind. Organizations need an integrated demand generation strategy. They need an exceptional customer experience that engages the client or the customer and drives conversion. They need technology that's not siloed, is integrated, where you have a single view of the customer, you're able to measure and drive towards revenue analytics, and you have a roadmap. So from a revenue generation standpoint, we recommend that organizations focus on these 5 key things to drive revenue. So let's start by talking about the strategy and the roadmap. The strategy quite often needs to start by really thinking about where are you and what your roadmap needs to be. And that breaks down into thinking about at the top of the funnel, how are you going to generate leads and opportunities? And then the traffic that comes to the top or the leads that you get, how do you convert and optimize experiences at the top of the funnel to drive maximum leads? And once you do get leads, how do you accelerate those leads through the funnel, create opportunities for the organization, and ultimately, how do you engage with existing customers? So throughout the customer journey, from the top of the funnel to engaging with customers, organizations need a strategy to begin with. And this strategy breaks down across your marketing funnel to think about at each stage how organizations need to engage across the funnel to drive conversion. At the top of the funnel, what kind of capabilities and campaigns are needed to drive leads? How do you convert leads, traffic to leads, and then leads to opportunities? And then how do you nurture them to ultimately become customers? And then how do you engage with them? So as you think about your funnel and the capabilities required, and you start to ask yourself where you are, you have to establish a roadmap for yourself. Organizations quite often fall into 4 steps that we see in a revenue journey. Early on, they're doing simple lead generation where they're driving traffic, they're getting leads, but quite often they're limited by the quality of leads and by conversion. So the ROI is clearly not there and it's not measurable. Then organizations really start to move towards demand generation, where they're generating leads, they're generating opportunities, they're getting higher quality opportunities, and from there they start to optimize. They start to get higher lead volume, they get funnel velocity, but they're still not generating the revenue and driving the ROI they need. And ultimately, once they get to driving towards the revenue engine, they start to see revenue come through from the marketing activities. They're starting to see a single view of the customer. They're starting to see an execution where there's an increase in revenue. So mapping out your revenue journey and understanding where you are and where you need to get to and putting a plan around that is critical to actually driving a revenue engine. So quite often, as you think about where you are, you have to think about different stages of the buyer's journey. And starting with the top of the funnel, where you are trying to drive maximum amount of traffic to lead conversion, you're thinking about how do you create volume, if you will. You have to consider things such as content marketing, which is persona-driven, where your content is targeted to the right person at the right time and through the right channel. You're focusing on how your website drives conversion. You're thinking about how your media placements are driving traffic and leads. You're thinking about retargeting. So you have to have strategies which are top funnel focused so that you're getting the maximum volume, if you will, to drive through the revenue engine. Strategies that work at the top of the funnel include your corporate website, email marketing, search engine marketing, advertising, retargeting. So focusing on these types of activities will give you returns at the top of the funnel. Then as you drive towards leads and opportunities, then you have to focus towards conversion and optimization. And personalization becomes quite important when you think about how you're going to turn your leads into opportunities. So getting the right message at the right time, through the right channel, and now on the right device becomes critical. Looking at your website and optimizing the experience so that your audience is engaged and they convert to leads and opportunities. Thinking about the types of marketing channels that are needed to engage. What would work better, your website versus display versus email, or a combination of all those areas is going to give you the optimization that you need. And then recognizing that content is key to fueling engagement. So using content marketing to drive engagement, to drive conversion, creating opportunities for the firm. Context is critical, especially at the top of the funnel. Context drives engagement, and unless you're able to target prospects with the right type of content, you're going to lose them. The new buyer has very little attention, so unless they're getting the right content at the right time, they're not going to be engaged. Your website is a critical conversion engine. You have to not think about your website as a static entity, but think about personalization strategies and content that you would use through testing strategies that would ultimately lead to leads, and that would drive towards revenue. So your website is a key asset at the top of the funnel to drive leads and funnel revenue downstream. Call to actions on your sites and landing pages have to be focused in a manner that you're maximizing leads. You have to merchandise, whether it's a product or a service. You have to create scent, as they say, create interest. Content has to be simple and persuasive, and your calls to action have to be engaging. Once you've driven leads at the top of the funnel, then the focus becomes towards how do you accelerate opportunities through the funnel. And we all know this, that most leads that come through your website or top funnel activities are not really ready to buy. And that's where you need to use marketing automation and content marketing strategies to improve quality of leads and accelerate them through the funnel. Marketing automation is a critical technology that focuses really in the middle of the funnel and accelerate leads that you get from the top all the way through the funnel towards customers. And organizations that use marketing automation, they see a 45% increment, if you will, than those who don't. So you would start to see more leads come through your pipeline. Your pipeline would be 45% larger on average if you use marketing automation. And you would see faster sales cycle times. You would see an improvement in quota achievement by using marketing automation. The other benefit of getting marketing automation installed is that you would see reporting at a more granular level. You will start to see revenue metrics in terms of how your prospects are engaging with you across your channels. So on your website, email, mobile, what's driving acquisition, what's driving leads, what type of behavior is leading to opportunities, and what segments you should go after. And as you drive leads, opportunities, and you convert customers, the focus cannot stop when it comes to thinking about revenue at just acquisition, and that's quite often the issue that organizations run into, where the focus is towards acquisition. The focus really has to be across the customer journey and customer lifecycle management of existing customers you need to engage with, and how you onboard them, how you promote usage and adoption of your products and services, how you continue to educate and train, how you cross-sell, upsell, how you enable account management, loyalty, and retention. These are all activities that marketing is now involved in and partners with different groups in the organization, if you will, to ensure that customers are your customers for life. Content is critical to actually engaging with customers, so thinking about the right segments that you need to target, having the right criteria across the buyer's journey, and targeting content at each stage of the buyer's journey will engage buyers and convert them into customers. And for that, you need content which is engaging, content where it is concentrated towards critical decision points in the buyer's journey, where the content is of different types. There are organizations now are focusing on content not only which is content which is available on web pages and such, but content really that is more engaging, such as videos, infographics, and such. So think about the right content that you would engage across the buying life cycle and engage with different social channels will bring you higher ROI. Thought leadership is critical. Without thought leadership, you're not positioning who you are as an organization and what you stand for. And your customers care about thought leadership more so than what services you offer. So positioning the right content in front of them in terms of your positioning in the marketplace and your perspective on key issues that organizations are facing in the marketplace is what's going to drive engagement. So creating content is important, but beyond that, focusing on distribution, using the same content to distribute it across channels so you get maximum engagement across every touch point, and just focusing on iterating through that content will give you results. Organizations across industries focus on using content on their websites and different channels to drive engagement. Without content, without thought leadership, no matter what type of marketing activities organizations are running, they're not engaging customers. Also, content has to be thought in a different way. We have to move away from this whole notion of a content blob on websites, but more towards content structures where contents are in chunks. They're available for you to distribute not only on your website, but through different channels, whether you want to use the same content for email marketing, for social media, and any touch point. Your content needs to be fluid, and you need to be able to push that content easily, and your technology needs to be able to enable that. So today, when you think about your content, that same content that resides on your website can be pushed out to social media, can be pushed out to Twitter, Facebook, mobile. So thinking about content not as a structured resource on your website, but really as a fluid resource that you can push out to any touch point is considered best practice. So if you have the right strategy, then you need an exceptional customer experience. Customer experience has fundamental implications on how you're able to drive revenue. The graphic here indicates that customer experience leaders, as identified by Forrester, they have a 30+% return on investment than laggards. So customer experience, as subjective as it sounds, has a definite and specific impact towards driving revenue. Because the customer you're targeting is no longer going to wait for you if your messages are not on point and they're not engaging. Customers will discontinue communication because the amount of options that they have available today are tremendous and they have very little attention. So if you send irrelevant messages, you're not going to engage the customer. So if you are able to execute customer experience, you would see better acquisition, you would see better retention, and you'll see more efficiency come through. So focusing on the experience of the customer across the customer's journey from acquisition through engagement will give you results which will fundamentally alter how you market to customers in the long run. And it starts by understanding your customer, understanding how they discover services, how they explore services, how they buy, and how they engage with you. So thinking about each stage in the buyer's journey and the digital touch points you need to have in engaging those customers will drive acquisition, will drive revenue, will drive engagement, will give you lifetime customers. And the journey can be thought through in terms of a broad customer's journey or a buying life cycle. Whatever is relevant to your business, you could utilize different tactics, but using the appropriate model, but really focusing on who the customer is and what their buying journey is, and how they engage with you through the journey is something that establishing that would give you deep view into what type of marketing activities you need to target towards these customers, and then how you need to engage with them across each stage. And then you can really optimize your marketing resources to focus on what's important rather than just spraying and praying, if you will, around all kinds of content. And as you start to understand what the customer journey is, then you can personalize communication and content across channels, and then ensure that the journey of the customer with you across all touch points is contextual and is personalized. And the results of that are typically transformational. Organizations quite often are spraying and praying customers, so they're pushing content out, but they're not really assessing what content is relevant. And as your buyer moves from your website to receiving emails or goes through social media channels, quite often organizations which are channel focused are sending irrelevant messages, messages which are not contextual, and that's when you lose the customer. So as you establish the customer journey, you need to then start to focus on what type of analytics will drive towards results. So understanding analytics is going to fundamentally alter how you market. We see organizations that get analytics, but they're looking at tactical things such as website metrics, traffic hits, etc. Those metrics, while important, don't really give you a view of revenue. So focusing on customer intelligence, focusing on understanding how the buyers are moving through your buyer's journey, and then focusing on the right type of analytics will start to give you better results. So the challenges quite often organizations face in calculating ROI is that they're not able to close the loop. So all their touch points are segregated. They're not able, the data doesn't pass from the website, the email. They're not pulling all the data points into a center unified data store, so they're not able to actually get closed loop ROI reporting, if you will. They're not able to get reporting across the entire funnel. They're quite often channel focused, so top funnel activities are different from bottom funnel. Their sales teams are working on CRM systems which are not integrated to the website or marketing automation platforms. There's very little integration quite often. So if you think about how your marketing systems are set up and the type of silos of content they're creating and the type of silos of data they're creating, quite often we find that because of this isolation of technology and these data islands of data that are set up, organizations are not able to get the right view. And 50% of the time when it comes to actually looking at insights is spent on collecting data, creating reports rather than focusing on changes and looking at the insights to make informed decisions. So organizations start to think about really understanding what type of insights are needed, what kind of metrics are needed to establish and measure ROI, what kind of data sources are needed for you to bring together to unify and then to assess and see what type of results would be driven. Understanding the ROI across different metrics is important, but unless you establish what your customer's journey is and what kind of an attribution model is needed, you're not going to be able to really execute reporting initiatives which are tied to your business. And then establishing reporting and insights, the type of reporting that you would need, will start to give you the results. So if you focus on the customer journey, you understand the KPIs that are needed, your data is integrated, you'll be able to get the reporting insights you need. And establishing that quite often requires you to ensure that all your data sources are integrated, you know what insights are needed, and then the metrics are easy after that if you understand what your customers want. And when you start to think about metrics, you really have to focus on what are the metrics that matter. Does it really matter how many hits you're getting on your website? Or should you be looking at cost per lead per channel perhaps, or the conversion rate, or the total revenue a campaign is driving? So if your data is integrated, pulling these kind of reports is not difficult. It's just a question of asking the right questions. One of the key things that we ask organizations to consider when they think about measures is have a clear understanding across the organization of what is a lead. So assessing across the funnel, assessing what type of leads in different stages as they fall through, what is an MQL, an SAL, an SQL, and having a common language established within the organization will help align marketing, sales, and the leadership to ensure that when you think about revenue and attribution, you're able to link your lead scores, if you will, with the revenue that you drive. And when you start to think about attribution models, as you think about different touch points that a customer engages with your organization on, you have to pick the right attribution model. There's several attribution models out there. There's attribution models like the first touch or the last touch. The last touch will focus on what was the last interaction that led to the sale, but then that gives an incomplete view because there's so many influences that led to that ultimate decision and the last touch that may not have been counted. First touch allows you to assess where did it start and where did the journey start and what activity led to acquisition. So there's different models that you can apply and you can try to assess what type of an acquisition and attribution model would work in your business. Ultimately, technology is critical to driving results. And the question is, how prepared are you as an organization to drive those results? The technologies that impact revenue include email marketing automation systems, a CRM, a marketing analytics, web analytics, marketing automation, content management platforms. These are must-have platforms organizations need and ensure that they're integrated for them to be successful. And when you think about your platforms, you have to think about what type of a customer experience platform is coming together. So instead of thinking about assets and channels, so instead of thinking about your website and CRM and email and marketing automation and CRM systems that the Salesforce works with, think about them as integrated capabilities that actually help you orchestrate customer experiences which can then be personalized. If all your systems are integrated, you'll be able to get an actionable customer profile which pulls information across all channels so that then you can orchestrate experiences across any touch point in a personalized manner. And then you would continue to be able to pull out insights, your insights across web, mobile, social, web, email, touch points can be pulled together so that you can try to understand what's driving the customer journey. And you can continue to then optimize engagement using the insights that you gather. The CMS, CRM, and marketing automation platforms are critical to understanding how your customers are engaging with you. The web content management system would engage typically the website and mobile platforms. The CRM will store the customer data. Marketing automation will store the behavior and drive email. So between these platforms, you can actually pull together a common customer context which can be stored in the customer profile, and you can use that to actually engage the customer across any touch point. So as you think about your revenue strategy and you map out your funnel and what activities you're going to drive through the funnel, you can link that to your technology. So if you're thinking about what the customer's buying life cycle is and how they move from each stage, you can start to think about what you're going to do at the top of the funnel, how assets in the middle of the funnel are going to be integrated and ultimately move through to engage the customer at each stage. So your technology and marketing activities have to be closely aligned with the customer's buying life cycle.